The first buzz wasn't mine. That's what stopped me mid-step. She left her phone. Again. I was halfway to the door with my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, every zipper screaming that this was it, when the soft vibration on the table made me freeze. Not my phone. Her phone. Lock screen. 2 words. He knows. No name. Just that. Just he knows. At 7:14 p.m. The irony? She thought she was the one in control. She thought leaving her phone behind was safe, because I was the docile one, the boring one, the man who double-checked the thermostat and folded towels the wrong way. She thought I wouldn't look. But I had looked. Days ago. Weeks, actually. Tonight was the execution. I set my bag down without a sound. Not out of guilt, out of strategy. You don't slam doors when you're about to detonate someone's life. You move quietly. You observe. And most of all, you wait. The second buzz came just as I picked up the ring. Are you home yet? Different number. Still no name. But I knew who it was. Or, at least, I knew enough. Enough to piece together the Thursday night detours, the candle-scented passenger seat, the dry shampoo left in his glove box. Yes, I checked, and the unfamiliar grin she'd started wearing like a borrowed dress. I didn't respond. I just held the ring up against the window light and noticed a tiny chip on the edge. Probably from when she threw it into her makeup drawer during last month's fight. The one where she told me I make intimacy feel like a chore chart. I left it on the counter. Not center stage, off to the side. Like a final, forgotten item in a catalog that's gone out of print. Then I sat down in the chair across from the kitchen. In the dark. No lights. No music. Just me and her buzzing phone. That's when I saw headlights outside. I assumed it would be her. It wasn't. What happened next changed everything. It wasn't her car that pulled into the driveway. That was the first sign something was off. Headlights too high. Engine too quiet. I leaned forward just enough to peek through the edge of the window, still shrouded in shadows. Black Tesla. Sleek. New. Not hers, not mine. I knew it had to be him. The mystery man who'd been rewriting my wife's loyalty behind my back. But what I wasn't ready for was the fact that he walked in using his own key. I didn't even have time to react. The front door opened like it belonged to him, like this was his place too. And there he was, wearing a navy pea coat, buttoned halfway, carrying a small paper bag like he was bringing home takeout for his girlfriend. He didn't even hesitate. Walked right past the foyer, right toward the kitchen. That's when he saw the ring. He froze. The moment was awkward in a cinematic kind of way. A man entering another man's home to surprise his lover, only to find a symbol of commitment tossed like a warning. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at it, like maybe he thought she had left it for him. And that's when I stepped out of the shadows. "You must be Tanner," I said, voice low, shaking slightly but trying to fake the confidence I absolutely did not feel. His face. I'll never forget the way his smug little smirk melted off. He wasn't scared, not exactly. Just caught. Off guard. He looked me over, probably noticed my trembling hands, my loose hoodie, the way I was standing like I hadn't decided whether to scream or collapse. He cleared his throat and said, "I didn't know you were still here." I tilted my head. "Yeah, I get that a lot." We stood in silence for a moment. Him by the counter. Me 10 feet away, blocking the exit. I didn't move. He didn't either. For some weird reason, neither of us raised our voices. It wasn't a yelling moment. It was colder than that. Clinical. He gestured toward the ring. "Is that for her?" I shook my head. "No, that's for me." He squinted. "I don't follow." I stepped closer. "You wouldn't. You weren't here when I stayed up with her through her night terrors. You weren't the one who canceled your promotion to help her take care of her dad when he was dying. You didn't hold her hair back when she got food poisoning on our honeymoon. But you get to come here and play boyfriend because she's bored now?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence was the most honest thing in the room. Then, finally, he put the paper bag on the table and said, "I think I should leave." I laughed. A bitter, miserable kind of laugh. "Leave? No, no. Please stay. She'll be here soon. Why don't you surprise her for once?" He opened his mouth to say something, but right then, the front door opened again, and she stepped in, coat in hand, hair curled, lipstick fresh. Adelaide. The look on her face when she saw the two of us, her husband and her lover, standing in silence by the kitchen counter like statues carved out of disappointment, was pure horror. But what she said next wasn't what either of us expected. She didn't scream. She didn't gasp. She didn't drop her keys like they do in the movies. No. Adelaide looked at us. Me by the window, Tanner by the counter, and she laughed. Not a full laugh. Just one of those weird, breathy scoffs people do when they've been caught and are trying to act like they're not. Like it was all one big misunderstanding. Wow, she said, still standing half inside the doorway. You two really did this. No one replied. Not yet. Tanner took a half step back, like her tone confused even him. Maybe he expected tears. Maybe he thought she'd fall into his arms and say, "Thank God you're here." But she didn't. She shut the door slowly, hung her coat up like she lived alone, and walked into the room with the confidence of someone who thought she was still the smartest person here. You were supposed to be gone, she said to me directly, her voice sharp now. You said you were spending the weekend at your brother's. I was, I answered, watching her carefully. But I figured you might enjoy a different kind of surprise. She glanced at the ring on the counter. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't touch it. That told me everything I needed to know. She didn't want to deal with the symbol. She didn't want to acknowledge anything real. She just wanted to perform her way through the moment and hope it passed. Tanner broke the silence. Addie, I didn't know. Don't call me that, she snapped, and just like that, the mask cracked. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in a long while, I realized something cold and unforgiving. She didn't look remorseful. She looked inconvenienced. Like we were both ruining some grand script she'd been writing in her head where I was the villain, and he was the knight, and she was the poor woman caught between two impossible choices. Except now the audience had turned on her, and she had no lines. I don't know what you want from me, she said, arms folded, voice rising. This, she gestured between the three of us, this ambush isn't going to fix anything. We were broken long before Tanner. I never said I wanted to fix anything, I replied. You already did enough breaking. That landed. I could see it. She flinched, just a bit. Then her face hardened. You're overreacting, she said. And that's when it all snapped for me. Overreacting? This woman had lied to my face for weeks, slipped out of bed under the excuse of needing space, blamed me for every cold dinner and short reply, and I was the one overreacting? I walked to the table, picked up the ring, and held it out toward her. Take it, I said. What? Go ahead. Take it. It's yours. She looked down at it like it was radioactive. Why would I want that? Because if you don't, I said, you'll never get the chance to say you gave it back. And trust me, soon, you'll wish you had. She didn't move, just stood there, stunned and angry and suddenly not so powerful. And Tanner? He was already walking toward the door. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't even look back. But Adelaide did. And the look she gave me wasn't just confusion. It was fear. The silence in the house after Tanner left didn't feel peaceful. It felt loaded, like a gun with the safety off. Adelaide stood in the same spot, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles turned white, but she still hadn't said another word. I didn't push her. Not yet. I just walked past her, slowly, without touching her, and picked up my duffel bag again. She turned to follow me with her eyes, not her body. I could feel the calculation in her silence, like she was trying to guess how much I knew, and more importantly, what I planned to do with it. I didn't give her answers. I just said, you're going to start hearing from people soon. Don't try to control the narrative. Just don't. That was all I left her with. I stepped outside, the cold air burning the back of my throat as I shut the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I wanted it to echo quietly. A surgical incision, not a scream. I didn't go to a hotel. I went to a place she'd never expect, my boss's empty lake house. I had the spare key from when I helped him move furniture over the summer. It was dusty, freezing, and the Wi-Fi barely worked, but it was mine for the moment. And that night, alone in that old wooden house, I started backing up everything. Screenshots, timestamps, text logs, her appointment receipts that didn't match her GPS data. I had all of it. I didn't gather it out of revenge. I gathered it because I knew she was going to flip the story. She always did. And I was right. By morning, the first message came from her cousin. Heard you bailed last night. Adelaide's devastated. What happened? Then her coworker. Are you okay? She said you had a panic episode and just left the house. I stared at the screen, my jaw locked. She was already rewriting it. I didn't reply to anyone. Not yet. But I did log into our shared storage drive where I had all the files saved. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The password had changed. I tried the old one. Then our dog's name. Then the backup passphrase. All locked out. She'd accessed it. She found the files. And she was trying to erase the evidence. I should have expected it. I really should have. Adelaide was never reckless. She was smart. Cunning. The kind of person who would burn the house down just to control the ashes. But I had a backup she didn't know about. A private archive on an external drive hidden behind the paneling of my office desk. I wasn't worried about the files. I was worried about what she'd do next, now that she knew I had the truth. That afternoon, she called me. I didn't answer. She called again. Then 5 more times. Then from a different number. And then came the message I didn't expect. The one that changed everything. A photo. Of me. Sleeping. Taken recently. In our bedroom. With the caption, "If you're going to start a war, Doyle, make sure you don't leave ammunition lying around." That's when I realized. She hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been watching me. I stared at the photo for a full minute without breathing. It was me, sleeping on my side of the bed, my back to the camera, the blanket pulled halfway down my shoulder, clearly taken within the last 2 weeks. It wasn't a flattering angle, and that's what made it feel worse. Vulnerable. Unposed. I checked the metadata, but it had been wiped. Of course it had. Adelaide didn't make amateur moves. But that meant she'd either taken the photo herself, or she'd given someone else access to do it. Both options made my stomach turn. The moment I saw the picture, I stopped pacing and sat down on the floor. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was surveillance. This wasn't about love or sex or mistakes. This was about leverage. She was preparing for something. She knew I was collecting evidence, and now she was trying to paint me as paranoid, or dangerous, or worse. And suddenly, I wasn't even sure I was the one holding the detonator anymore. I didn't reply to her message. I just stared at it while my mind unraveled. Who took it? Did she plant a camera? Did she give Tanner a key? Had he been inside while I was asleep? I didn't remember any signs of a break-in, no missing items, no scuffs on the floor. But I did remember a day I came home, and she said, "You really should lock the back door, Doyle. One of these days someone might just walk in." She said it with a laugh. A casual warning I'd brushed off. My hands started shaking. I didn't want to admit it, but I was scared. Not just emotionally. Physically. If she was willing to cross this line, to monitor me, photograph me without my knowledge, and send it as a threat, what else was she capable of? What else had she been doing that I hadn't noticed? That night, I drove back to the house. Not to confront her, not yet, but to see if I could find anything. I parked a block away and approached on foot, keeping to the shadows like some idiot in a bad spy movie. But I wasn't dressed for stealth. I was in sweatpants and a hoodie that still smelled like old cologne and heartbreak. I reached the side gate and slid it open as quietly as I could. The kitchen lights were on, and I could see her moving inside. She was alone. No sign of Tanner. She poured herself a glass of wine and walked out of view. I knew every inch of that house. I knew which floorboards creaked. I knew how long the hallway light took to buzz on. But I didn't go inside. I didn't even try. I crouched beneath the office window and slid the outer screen up slowly. That was when I saw it. There was a new device plugged into the wall. A tiny black cube, smaller than a deck of cards. No labels, no wires, just a faint blue light blinking once every few seconds. It wasn't mine. It hadn't been there before. It was plugged in directly under the desk, my desk, exactly where I used to keep my laptop docked. That was the moment I understood. She hadn't just been watching me. She had been listening too. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. Standing there, half-crouched by the window, my eyes locked on that blinking device, I felt something tighten in my chest that wasn't just fear, it was recognition. That wasn't just some spy gadget from a thriller movie. I'd seen one before. 2 years ago. In a hotel lobby display case when Adelaide and I went to D.C. She pointed at it and said, "Can you believe people buy those to spy on their own partners?" We laughed. It felt like a joke then. It doesn't anymore. I backed away from the window, slow and quiet, heart pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it from inside. I was no longer a husband checking on a cheating wife. I was now a liability she needed to manage. Adelaide hadn't just covered her tracks, she'd laid down a minefield. And I was walking through it barefoot. I got in the car and drove, hands tight on the wheel, mind spinning. I didn't go back to the lake house. I didn't feel safe there anymore. I didn't go to my brother's. I didn't even go to a friend. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot at 1:13 a.m. and just sat there in the dark, engine off, windows down, phone in airplane mode. I kept thinking about the camera, the timing, the text. If you're going to start a war, make sure you don't leave ammunition lying around. She wasn't bluffing. She was preparing. For what? I wasn't sure yet. But my gut told me she was going to flip the entire narrative on me. Make me out to be the unstable one. Maybe even violent. I'd seen how she manipulated people with ease. Crying on command. That trembling lip. The way she told half-truths wrapped in just enough facts to be believable. She once convinced our landlord to waive a $400 fee by saying I lost my job. I hadn't. She just wanted that money for emergency savings. Except I never saw it again. By the next morning, it had begun. My mother called. Said Adelaide told her I'd been acting erratic and possibly depressed. That I'd taken off in the middle of the night without explanation and left her, concerned for my safety. She even told my mother that I might be off my meds. I've never been on medication in my life. That was when I realized this wasn't just damage control. She was building a paper trail. Planting seeds. If anything happened, if I pushed back, if I exposed her, she could cry, see? I tried to warn you all. But here's the thing about building a trap. If you get too clever, you forget where you place the wires. And Adelaide? She forgot something crucial. Months ago, before all this started, we switched internet providers. I handled the setup. When she wasn't looking, I installed a secondary security camera in my office, a tiny fisheye lens disguised inside an old smoke detector I never took down. It wasn't connected to the cloud, just a physical backup onto a private SD card. And I had the footage. Footage of her plugging that black cube into the wall. Footage of her standing at my computer while I slept. And footage of something even worse. A stranger. Not Tanner. Someone else. In the house, while I was home. I didn't watch the whole recording right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too much to even get the SD card into the adapter on my laptop. I'd driven to a public library an hour away just to avoid using my own internet. Paranoid? Maybe. But with everything that was happening, I no longer trusted anything familiar. Not my house, not my neighborhood, not even the people I thought were mine. Especially not Adelaide. When the footage finally loaded, the playback was grainy but clear enough. The smoke detector camera wasn't meant for high definition. It was meant to catch movement. And catch it, it did. There she was, entering the office barefoot, hair still wet from the shower, her phone in one hand and a small black device in the other. She looked relaxed, not sneaky, like someone setting up a Bluetooth speaker. She bent down, plugged the cube into the outlet, then looked straight at my desk. I watched her lift my keyboard, pull something from beneath it, and replace it with something else. What? I couldn't tell. She did it with such smoothness, like she'd practiced. Then, minutes later, he appeared. Not Tanner. Not anyone I recognized. This man didn't knock. He walked in like he belonged there. Adelaide greeted him like she'd been expecting him. He was older, mid-40s maybe, short beard, wearing a black jacket and dark jeans. The strange part was, he never smiled. Not once. She handed him her phone, and he plugged it into a laptop he brought in a backpack. I watched them exchange words I couldn't hear. She nodded a lot. He typed. She pointed at my screen. Then as she walked out, left him alone in my office. That was the part that really chilled me. He stayed in that room for nearly 17 minutes. I watched him open folders, insert a USB, connect something I couldn't quite make out. His movements were surgical, practiced. Not the behavior of a jealous lover or a random friend. This man was doing something to my system, and Adelaide knew. She let him. She orchestrated it. By the time I hit pause, my head was spinning. What the hell was this? Cheating I could almost process. Lying, manipulation, emotional damage. All part of the worst-case scenario I'd been mentally preparing for. But this felt like a new category. It felt criminal. Digital sabotage? Corporate spying? Why? What could I possibly have that would be worth this? Then I remembered something I hadn't thought about in months, an old freelance project from last year. I'd been contracted by a small biotech firm to build a secure internal document manager. Nothing fancy, but the security protocols were strict. I still had backup architecture blueprints on my machine. Completely encrypted, useless to anyone without the key, but still there. Still valuable. And Adelaide knew I worked on that project. She even joked once, "You could probably sell that software and make more in a weekend than you do all year." At the time, I thought she was being sarcastic. Now I wasn't so sure. Was this all about money? Was Tanner just a distraction? Was I living in a relationship that was never really about love to begin with? I leaned back in the library chair, heart pounding, while rising in my throat. And that's when my phone lit up again. This time, no threats, no photos, just a single message from a blocked number. Meet me at the house. Come alone. She doesn't know I saw everything. I didn't go to the house right away. I sat in the car for a long time, watching the message over and over, reading between the lines. Whoever sent it, the stranger from the footage, claimed he saw everything and that she didn't know. Maybe he was bluffing. Maybe it was a trap. But something in my gut said otherwise. His face in that recording, it didn't look like someone enjoying what he was doing. It looked like a man following instructions he wasn't proud of. Maybe he had a conscience after all. When I finally pulled up outside the house, it was just after 11 p.m. No lights were on. The place looked still, but the front door wasn't locked. I stepped inside, quietly, slowly. The air smelled like lavender, her favorite diffuser scent. I crept through the hallway and saw him waiting in the office, arms crossed, no smile. Same jacket, same dead expression. But when he spoke, his voice didn't match the face. It was calm, almost apologetic. I didn't know what she was really doing until I saw the footage, he said. She told me it was just to recover some deleted files from her account, claimed you'd locked her out of her own data. I believed her, until I saw what was really on your system. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. She didn't just want access, he went on. She wanted to scrub everything. Reformat drives. Wipe security logs. Make it look like you were the one hiding things. I was supposed to install tracking software and extract all your encrypted folders. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He hesitated. Because I have a daughter. And if someone ever used her the way Adelaide tried to use me, I'd want someone to stop it. He handed me a USB drive. This is everything. Copies of what she tried to delete. Logs. Recordings. Even a few text backups. I kept it all. Insurance. But now, I think it's better in your hands. Before I could ask anything else, he was gone. Just like that. Out the door and into the night. No name. No contact. Just a man who'd apparently had enough. I stood there in the middle of my own house, holding a digital time bomb that could shatter everything she'd built. But I didn't feel like detonating it. I felt free. The next morning, I packed everything I owned. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't leave a note. I just walked out. Quietly. Same way I left the ring. By noon, I'd spoken to a lawyer. A good one. The kind that smiles when you say, she's going to lie. Over the next 2 weeks, everything unfolded like dominoes. I sent the footage to my attorney, who sent it to hers. No messy trial. No dramatic confrontations. She tried to deny it, at first. Then I showed the lawyer the recordings, the messages, the hidden surveillance. Her tone changed fast. I got everything. The house. The car. Even Samson, our dog. She didn't fight for him. Said she couldn't handle the responsibility. Funny. That's all she'd ever been trying to escape. By the end of the month, Adelaide was out. Not just of the house. Out of my life. Out of the web she tried to spin. Tanner never came back. And that mystery man. I never saw him again. But I think about him sometimes. About the weird way the truth finds cracks to leak through, no matter how tight someone tries to seal it. I moved to a different city. Changed jobs. Kept the USB drive, but I've never used it for revenge. Just kept it in a drawer as a reminder. These days, I sleep easier. The ring is still gone, but I bought a new one recently. And this time, I know exactly what kind of love it deserves.